Okay, good day and welcome. Today we're going to be discussing the concept of cell. Okay, now by definition, the cell is defined as the basic unit of human existence. This definition or concept was obtained from what we know today as the cell theory. The cell theory is simply a body of truth in biology regarding the cell as the smallest unit of life or human existence. Okay? Now, the cell theory was put together by several scientists, okay, simply because they made notable contributions or discoveries on the cell. Some of these scientists include men like Rudolf Virchow, Robert Hooke, Theodor Schwann, and a man we know as Matthias Schleding. All right, so all of these individuals carried out experiments, okay, and made profound observations or discoveries, which led to the knowledge or which led to the conclusion that cells exist. Now, the cell theory is simply summarized under three main headings. Number one, all living things consist of cells. Number two, the cell is the basic unit of existence. As a basic unit, the cell is the structural and functional unit of existence. Structural because it is the building block of all existence. Functional because all cellular activities or all activities that take place in the body happen within cells. And lastly, the third heading on the cell theory is that new cells arise from pre-existing cells, otherwise known as old cells. Okay, this statement is usually termed by biologists as the law of gametogenesis. Okay, we proceed. Now, that being said about the cell, it will interest you to know that there are two types of cells. And these two types include what we know as the plant cell and the animal cell. The plant cell and the animal cell. Okay? This you have right here on the board is the diagram of the plant cell. Subsequently, towards the end of this class, I'm going to equally show you the diagram of the animal cell. Now, as you can see on this diagram, we have components present within the cell. These components are what we call cell organelles or cell components or cell structures. Okay? Also, some of these organelles occur both in plants and animal cells, while others either occur only in plants or occur only in animals. For example, we can only find the cell wall in the plant cell. Animal cells do not possess cell wall. Okay, but cell membrane is present in both plants and animal cells. Conversely, in the animal cell, we find an organelle known as the centriole. Now, that organelle is present only in animal cells. It is not found in plant cells, as you can see. Okay, so this is crucial because examiners exploit this particular aspect of the cell, okay, owing to the fact that most students do not know, or we are not told, or we are not taught, or it was not contained in their textbooks, that some organelles occur sometimes in both plant and animal cell, and there are other organelles that may be present only in one type of cell, either the plant cell or the animal cell. All right? Excellent. Now, we have what we call cell organelles, like I mentioned. And as you can see here, starting from the top, we have what is called rough endoplasmic reticulum, smooth endoplasmic reticulum, the air space, cell wall, cell membrane, the chloroplast, which contains chlorophyll, and you should know that the chloroplast only occurs in plant cells, and it is in the chloroplast that what we know as photosynthesis occurs. We equally have the nucleus, which is found in both plant and animal cell. We have the nucleoplasm, which is the membrane surrounding the nucleus. We have the chromosomes, the nucleolus, the food vacuole, larger in plant cells and smaller in animal cells. Larger because in plant cells, we photosynthesize. Plant cells produce their own food, so they require a larger storage than the animal or the animal cell. We have the tonoplast, which is simply the membrane surrounding the food vacuole. We have the lysosome, we have the Golgi body, we have the ribosomes, and we have what is known as the mitochondria. Okay? So I would explain all of these organelles when I talk about the animal cell. Also, there is something we know as the kinds of cells. And in biology, we have two main kinds. One is called the eukaryotic cell, and two is called the prokaryotic cell. A cell is said to be eukaryotic when it has a well-defined nucleus and its organelles are membrane bound. Please take note of that. A prokaryotic cell, on the other hand, is that cell that does not have a well-defined nucleus and it lacks what we call membrane-bound organelles. Excellent. Now, I must state at this point, ladies and gentlemen, that your prokaryotes, that is animals that have prokaryotic cells, prokaryotes, okay? These are organisms that have prokaryotic cells. Excellent. In prokaryotes, the DNA, which is their genetic material, is not present in the nucleus. Yes. Rather, it is found scattered in the cytoplasm. But in eukaryotic cells, the DNA is found in the nucleus. I hope you get that now. Excellent. Okay? So, shortly after now, you will be seeing the diagram of the animal cell, and I will be explaining to us, or rather teaching us, on cell organelles and their function, okay, their functions, and also the name of the membrane surrounding a setting of them. I'll be talking about it in any moment from now. Do not forget the definition of the cell, which was coined from the cell theory, which was put together by notable scientists, okay? And I mentioned names like Rudolf Virchow, I mentioned names like Robert Hooks, I mentioned names like Matthias Schleiden and Theodor Schwann. And I summarized all of their findings under three headings. 1. All living things consist of cells. 2. The cell is the basic unit of life. That is to say, it is the structural building block and the functional unit of life. Functional because it is the center where activities that take place within the body occurs, or within an organism occurs. All right? Please note at this point that the study of cell is called cytology. The study of cell is known as cytology. All right? So do not forget also, there are two main types of cells, the plant cell and the animal cell. And remember equally that there are two kinds of cells, the eukaryotic cell and the prokaryotic cell. Do not also forget that the DNA in an eukaryotic cell is found in the nucleus, but in a prokaryote, it is found scattered in the cytoplasm. Remember also that present within the cell are certain structures and components which perform specified or specific functions needed for the smooth operation of the cell. These components are known as cell organelles or cell structures. All right. Do not forget as well, I mentioned that some of these organelles occur in both plant and animal cells. Others occur in only one type, either plants or animals. Thank you very much. All right. So welcome again. Now, right here on the board and on your screen is the diagram of the animal cell, like I previously mentioned or said I was going to present to us. This is the diagram of the animal cell. Okay, and you can see it is carrying what we call components, okay, which have been labeled. All right, so quickly, let's get right to it. Let's talk about these components of a cell. Now, do not forget, they are called cell components, or we say cell structures, or we call them cell organelles. Okay, so starting with what we know as the cell membrane. The first component I'm going to talk about is the cell membrane. All right. Now, the cell membrane is present in both plant and animal cells. Please take note of that. The cell membrane is also known as the nuclear membrane, okay, the cytoplasmic membrane, or what we call plasma lemma. Plasma lemma. Okay. Now, what are the roles, or what is rather the role of the cell membrane? The cell membrane, number one, it controls what enters and leaves the cell. Number two, it maintains the shape of the cell. Number three, it provides protection for the cell and its components. Number four, it helps in what we know as cell communication, okay, which is the interaction between one or two or more components within the cell. All right, so do not forget that. Number two, we have an organelle known as the cytoplasm. Now, basically, what you need to know is that the cytoplasm is the jelly-like fluid where all cell organelles are found. Okay, so looking at the diagram, where all those organelles you see are located, that surrounding environment is what we call the cytoplasm. All right. Now, what is the main importance of the cytoplasm? It is simply the site where many metabolic reactions occur within the cell. Cell organelle number three, which is considered the most important, is the nucleus. All right. Now, it will interest you to know, first of all, that the nucleus is the most important cell organelle. Okay, and this is because the nucleus is the control center for all the operations of the cell, including the operations of the cell structures, which are the cell organelles. So, in a simple language, or simply put, The nucleus is the master organelle. It dictates the functionality of all other organelles. It regulates their functionality. Okay, so it is the control center of the cell. Now, the nucleus contains also what we call the DNA. Yes, so the DNA, especially in eukaryotic cells, please take note, especially in eukaryotic cells, the DNA is present, okay, in the nucleus. The DNA is present in the nucleus. All right. Now, as we go on, you would also find that the nucleus is in charge of directing all cell activities such as growth, division, and what we call synthesis of proteins. Okay, so the nucleus performs a directory role, okay, or a supervisory role. Please take note of that. All right. The nucleus is surrounded by a membrane which you see on your screen known as the nucleoplasm. All right. The nucleoplasm is the membrane surrounding the nucleus. Okay. Now, present also in the nucleus is a darkish area, that is a dark region in the nucleus, and that region is known as the nucleolus. All right. Now, this part of the nucleus, or this region within the nucleus, is where ribosomes are produced. Yes. So you can see on the screen that ribosomes are actually cell organelles. So ribosomes are actually produced in the nucleolus. All right. Please take note of that. Now, before we go on, you should also note that the DNA, which is present in the nucleus, equally has what we call a membrane that surrounds it, and that membrane is called the nuclear envelope. Please take note of that. All right. So, number 5, organelle. We've mentioned the cell membrane, the cytoplasm, the nucleus, and I've also talked about the nucleolus as the site where ribosomes are produced. So number 5 is the organelle known as the mitochondrion. Okay, plural is called mitochondria. Now, the mitochondrion is the site where cellular respiration takes place within the cell. So, as such, you know that when cellular respiration occurs, energy is generated or produced in the form of adenosine triphosphate, which we know as ATP. Okay? Now, because of this singular functionality or role of the mitochondrion, it earned itself a name known as the powerhouse of the cell. All right, this particular knowledge regarding the name of the mitochondrion as the powerhouse of the cell has been tested across various biology exams all around the world. Okay, so the mitochondrion is the powerhouse of the cell because it is the site for cellular respiration where energy is produced in the form of ATP. The next organelle we have is the ribosome. Okay, so the ribosome is the site for synthesis or production of proteins. The ribosome is the site for synthesis or production of proteins. Okay, now you should know at this point that the ribosome may either be free within the cytoplasm or it could be attached to the endoplasmic reticulum to form what we call the rough endoplasmic reticulum, which is another cell organelle. Now, the rough endoplasmic reticulum is said to be rough because it contains or it carries on its surface ribosomes. Now, what is the function of the rough endoplasmic reticulum? It is simply to make and transport proteins. The rough endoplasmic reticulum is the site where proteins are made and transported. Now, a rough endoplasmic reticulum known as the smooth endoplasmic reticulum equally exists. Now, it is called smooth, and I know you can guess that it does not have ribosomes attached to the surface. That's correct. Now it is cut smooth, okay, and it performs the following functions. Number one, it is the site where lipids, what we know as fats, are produced. Okay, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum is also responsible for the production of hormones, production of cholesterol, production of steroids, okay, or steroids. All right, it is also involved in detoxification of harmful substances. It is involved, not that it is the main organelle responsible for that. It is involved. Emphasis on involved. Okay, so it means there is another organelle responsible for detoxification, and we're coming there. All right. Lastly, in muscle cells, the smooth endoplasmic reticulum stores calcium ions. Okay. The next organelle we have is the lysosome, which exists mostly in animal cells. Now, the lysosome is also known as the suicide bag because it is responsible chiefly for detoxifying the cell. So the lysosome, I beg your pardon, is the part of the cell where harmful substances are transported to and they are dissolved. Okay? Also, the lysosome is the site where organelles that the cell may no longer require, okay, are destroyed. That is why it is called the suicide bag. So you should know also that the lysosome contains digestive enzymes, and these digestive enzymes help to break down worn out organelles and harmful substances. Thereby, the lysosome serves as a cell cleaner. Cell cleaner. Okay? Now, the next organelle we have is the Golgi body, also known as the Golgi apparatus. Its role is simply to package, modify, and transport proteins and lipids. Okay, these proteins are produced by the ribosomes in conjunction with the rough endoplasmic reticulum. The lipids are produced by the smooth endoplasmic reticulum. So the function of the Golgi body is to package these proteins and lipids that have been produced, modify them, yes, by adding other substances like carbohydrates, okay, to these proteins and lipids, thereby making them complex and then transporting them to other parts of the cell where they are needed. Also, the Golgi body, you should know, is responsible for the formation of what we know as vesicles, okay, and lysosomes. So it is the Golgi body that is responsible for the formation of vesicles and lysosomes. All right. So let's talk about vesicles. Vesicles are simply the transport organelle of the cell. They are responsible for transportation. Okay. So we call them vesicles, just like you say vehicles. Yes. So vesicles are like vehicles that operate within the cell. I hope that makes sense. Excellent. Now we have other organelles such as the vacuole, okay, also called the food vacuole. Yes. Now you should know that in the plant cell, the vacuole is usually large, okay, or many. It's in large numbers. While in the animal cell, the vacuole is usually not present at all, or if it is present, it is usually small. Okay, so plants need larger vacuole because plants produce their own food. Plants are autotrophic, green plants most especially. All right, so animals do not produce their own food, so they have no need for large vacuoles. Please take note, this is a popular exam question. All right, the animal cell is characterized by absence of vacuole or presence of small vacuoles. Okay, now the vacuole is responsible for storage of water, storage of food, and storage of waste. Storage of water, storage of food, and storage of waste. All right. The vacuole is very large in plant cells, do not forget that, and small in animal cells. Also at this point, I'll need you to know that there is a membrane surrounding the vacuole, and that membrane is known as the tonoplast. Okay? Alright. We also have the organelle known as the chloroplast. Now, it is not seen in the animal cell because the chloroplast is responsible for photosynthesis and it contains chlorophyll, which helps to trap sunlight needed for the manufacture of plant food. Okay, so chloroplast is found only in plant cells. Now we have an organelle also known as the cell wall. This organelle is present only in plant cells. It provides strength, shape, and protection for the plant cell, and it is usually made of cellulose in plants. So in case you are asked, the cell wall of plants is made up of, the answer is cellulose. All right. As a matter of fact, a mature plant cell is characterized by the presence of a cellulose cell wall. Okay, we proceed. We have another organelle known as the centrioles. Now, the centrioles are present only in the animal cell. As you can see, you have them right there on your screen. They are present only in animal cells. Now, what is the role of the centrioles? One, they help in what we call cell division. Okay, and two, they help to organize spindle fibers. Please take note of that. They help to organize spindle fibers during cell division. Okay. Now we have what we also call the cytoskeleton. That is another cell organelle. Okay, and it is simply a network of protein fibers within the cell. Network of protein fibers. Their duty is to maintain the shape of the cell and to help in cell movement and movement of organelles. Okay, so they do this in partnership with the vesicles. Okay, lastly, we have what we call chromosomes. Okay, chromosomes are coiled forms of DNA found in the nucleus. Okay, it is like a condensed form of the gene. All right, it's a coiled form of the DNA found in the nucleus, and they carry what we know as hereditary information. Okay, so I hope we get the basic knowledge of cell and its organelles alongside their functions. Okay.